Hey, Laura J. here with a quick message to the people who are saying the truckers and the convoy need funds to hire lawyers. Here's what I would like for you to understand. Did you know that a lawyer can only represent you, the man or woman, as your person? And your person is a status. So is being a trucker or being a driver. Those are statuses. Men and women are able to travel lawfully in our private capacity, or you can also be a man or woman driving. But to actually take on the status of driver changes you from the man or woman into a status, which means you go from a standing as one who is able to do things into one that is bound by the limitations, liabilities, obligations, and duties that are bound to the term that you take on, and then essentially you're putting on a suit. And so then when someone sees you in that suit, they make different hypotheses about you based on what it means to wear the suit, or the status, or the title. So, to anyone that is asking for money to hire a lawyer, which is sworn first and foremost to the bar, they will only ever be able to walk the man or woman to the line at which crossing that line would jeopardize the bar or the system to which the bar is sworn, which is the crown, which is connected to the crown that we think the woman acting as Her Majesty wears, but is actually connected to the Vatican. And there's more, which I'm not the expert in to say, except for to say that any man or woman that is going to donate your hard-earned monies, which are fiat currencies, because a fiat currency is backed by nothing except for the trust that is given to it by the government that said it got one line instead of the two lines through the dollar that lawful monies actually have. I digress. If someone is asking for your money to hire a lawyer to represent a man or woman driving as the trucker or the driver or the person, they are only going to be able to present the man or woman as the suit, and there's no change. This is why going to Ottawa, as much as I love how much national support is coming out for the men and women that are supporting the Convoy initiative, I can't help but be reminded of Event 201, where they wrote down to drain the resources of the ones with resources early on in the game, or get the men and women that don't know who they truly are as a standing to then status instead, which is a lower standing because it's a status and you can't stand on a status. The status doesn't mean anything, much like the fiat currency that's backed by nothing but our trust. It's the same way. And did you know a person, by definition of the government's, that it actually includes the definition of a trust, because our Commonwealth Trust is actually where all of the monies for our health system and all of what is going on is accessed by the government, govern being control, meant being of the mind. So the professional mind controllers have deceived us into believing that we are to maintain the status quo. Well, did you know that quo, actually, I have it here because I was curious, that it's quo is something received or given for something else. So what is happening with status quo is that you are trading your standing for a status. And a lawyer can only represent your status, which means that you have no standing as a man or a woman, because then you're statusing, which means you're taking on a suit which is not who you truly are, to boot. And there's no one that is liable other than the ability to lie, which is where liability comes in, because the whole system is designed around fictions, legal fictions, in fact, persons, personages, drivers, statuses. All of these things are in the public jurisdiction. Juris being of law or of right, and diction being what is spoken or wrote. So when you step into a jurisdiction you, the man or woman, are not competent in, then you drop your standing into a status and have to play by the rules that you are then bound by because you forgot who you were. And then you're going to get a lawyer, professional liar, to come in and represent you, the man or woman, as your person. Good luck with that. Event 201, drain the resources of those who have resources early on in the game. Check it out. October 18th, 2019, New York. It happened, laid out, the WHO, Gates Foundation. Look at the ones that are the main players, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna. Like, they were in the meeting. They're representatives. Representatives, meaning that you get represented to be other than you are because now you're just the suit. And then at the end of the day, you take the suit off and the man or woman goes home to the family that they put the suit on in order to feed and provide for. Lawyers will not get us out of this. If there is a lawyer drafting a constitution, what that means is it's going to be the same ship with a different flag, because that's what pirates do. And I'm not trying to be rude to any man or woman that is acting as a public servant, as a politician, as a lawyer, as a judge. I'm not necessarily speaking to the man or woman. I am saying men and women acting in these positions can be good men and women. But right now, you are going to pay a karmic consequence, a karmic price for selling out your fellow men and women and actually pushing forward this agenda. And if you donate your money to get a lawyer to represent you, you're keeping suits on. And underneath the suits, men and women go free at the end of the day, unless the men and women wearing the suits that know what they're doing, that are in cahoots with the crown and the system that is designed to save yourself significant time, energy, money, at whose expense? Ours. If you're being called to donate and you really want to be patriotic, correct your own standing. And then actually call out the men and women wearing suits, take their suits off, and hold them liable personally. Justin Trudeau, for instance, is a man acting as Prime Minister. The Prime Minister doesn't exist. Justin Trudeau is the man acting as Prime Minister of Canada, which is a corporation. Ontario is a corporation. Doug Ford is a man acting as Premier of the Corporation of Ontario. Please understand, lawyers will not get us out of this. Donate your monies if you choose to. But understand, all it's doing is actually fulfilling Event 201's predictive programming. And if you donate your monies to higher legal representation, it's not going to change anything. You're just going to not have the monies. Rules are not going to change unless men and women take the suits off and actually start standing on common ground, which is what common law is. It's an eye to eye. Bullies look their victims in the eyes, or they send the notice to the man or woman that is then turned into a status of their person, or whatever other status it is that is applied to them, which my warnings for the status of terrorist, for instance, could be applied to the man or woman that receives the notice and then is liable unless you know how to counterclaim, or if you know how to defend your standing and correct the fact that you do not consent to being a surety for your person. You're aware you have a person and that its name is spelled the same as yours. But there's so much more to all of this. I just see the messages, lawyers need money. Of course they do. But in previous civilizations, when those civilizations fell, the lawyers were the first to be lynched. I'm sorry to say, but I'm just reminding the men and women acting as legal professionals right now that you were the first to get lynched because the same thing happened then. Drain the resources of the few at the expense of the many. Or drain the resources of the many at the expense of the few in order to uphold legislation you don't even believe in as the man or woman acting in a suit. that then you sell out your people, and it's men and women that are left that are the lynching mob that come after the man or woman that sold them out because you were taking an order or you were doing a job. And ultimately, that is history, his story, and this is ours, and we can change it. But to donate to fund and hire lawyers, professional liars, who are first and foremost sworn to the bar or to the crown, mean that nothing is going to go down the way that it is expected, because they can only ever walk a man or woman to a certain point, at which time the man or woman could actually stand, and then they say, I'm sorry, you're on your own. They will not change things. They might have good intentions, but men and women change things. Persons' statuses don't. They're legal fictions. And this whole system is corrupt, and that's all I got to say for this message. And simply, I would not advise anything, because I wish to add no vice to anyone. I wish only to say men and women must stand shoulder to shoulder on the claims. And if we haven't claimed our rights, we don't have those rights to stand on, because a legal person has liabilities, obligations, duties, and debts that can be applied to it. We can also make the trust or the person be of benefit to us, which is how the government use it as the interface to get to us and apply the liabilities to us that we then, the man or woman, pay. And ultimately, if we don't correct our standing, we have nothing to stand on. And once we have made the correcting of our standing, then we have a claim to stand on, and then we enforce it with common law, which is common ground, because it's an eye to an eye. We write an eye on the page because it's the eye that I can see. I hope that that is a message for thee to do what feels best for you. Please do comment down below. If anything that I've said doesn't resonate, doesn't make sense, you know to be otherwise, comment down below, let me know, and then I'll speak into it in another message, or I'll get better information and clarify misunderstandings, so then we can stand together as man and woman, not as a status. I don't care what your status is, and I don't care anything about the status quo. Something received or given for something else, yeah, you're standing and you're trading it for a status. So, hope that helps. Laura J. Namaste. Namago.